computer, and then I'm going to share my screen. And I am sharing, just hold on. I need to go. Bio 20. Okay, let's see if this is showing up now. So I share this. So right now you should be able to see my Bio 20 home screen. Everyone see that? Thumbs up. Anyone? Okay. Well, someone, Anthony, it looks like I'm looking at you through night vision goggles here. Okay, so you can see this. When you see the screen, do you see, is there a picture, is there still a video of me on the screen, or is it just my screen that's sharing? And someone can say it. You can press your.
I can see you. I can
see it. So
see
just
you on the corner, and then I can see your page on the main.
Okay, so you see me up in the top right. Okay.
The top right corner, yeah.
Okay, and so I'm gonna move this to somewhere where it's not blocking things. So when I'm on this page, this is my dashboard. Up here, it has my profile. It shows like there's a message in there. I can access my messages by clicking on there. I can change my profile. You can actually customize your dashboard of what shows up and things like that, but I wouldn't worry too much about that. On here, so we're in the Bio 20, it has like that top announcement. This will be the Zoom meeting for this class that you can always click on that and it should just open up. This is the stuff we went over in the last class, just talking about, looking at where we're coming from. So what our past experiences were with learning, how do we feel about things and all that sort of stuff, and then looking at where we want to go, and then assessing some of the things that are barriers to learning for ourselves. And then we're going to take that and combined with the the content that we're expected to learn, we're going to figure out what new stuff we need to learn and what we're going to connect it to, like stuff that we're bringing to the things that we're bringing to this class are what we need to connect things to. And so we need to identify those things, or we're just going to be like, it's like throwing stuff at the wall and it'll stick for a bit and it's going to slide off. So we're identifying that stuff we're bringing to the class, where we want to go. The difference between them is the content we need to learn, and we're going to figure out how to connect those things to what we know. At the same time, I got to let someone in here, I guess, the meeting room. Someone's in the waiting room. Okay. At the same time, if there's things that have in the past been barriers to our learning and gotten in the way, then we need to deal with those things, or at least identify them and see if there's ways that we can minimize their effects. And when we do that, we're creating a learning action plan. And I'm doing this with all of my courses. So I think it's really going to set the table for the course for people. So the first activities, I posted this activity, where are we coming from? And then that's what I had posted on Friday. It's really, really short, and I'll go through that. There's a forum post we want to do because we're going to be using forums to share information and to discuss topics and things like that. And so it's just kind of a little bit of practice using a forum and how to use it, and then also sharing some information that will help us kind of get to know each other and what things we can share with we might be able to help other people with, or what people could help us with certain things. And so it's just kind of getting to know where we're at and who's here with us. And then the last part is this questionnaire of barriers to learning. I'll get into that as well. Okay. So what you're going to do, there's a few different ways that you can um, look at your activities that you need to do. And so here, like this is one activity, click here, click here, click here. I can see those. And then also over here, it has participants, badges, competencies. I don't know why those show up. But right now, these here, the general and the introduction, are the only two kind of sections of this course that are revealed. And right now, we're in the introduction. And if I click on this, it opens up and it shows the 3 activities that are in there. So I can access those activities over here. I can access them here. There's so many different places where you can get at it. So I'm going to click on this first activity. So building a learning action plan. Where are we coming from? And when you click on it, it's going to bring us to a new page. And there is kind of a blurb here about why we're doing this. Okay, so I've already talked a little bit about that. So the idea, when we're starting a course, we are not a blank slate. We have things we know from previous courses and life experiences. So it's not the same as learning when you go to school as a kid and you are kind of a blank slate as far as how to learn, and you're learning things that are very, very new that you haven't seen before. That's not the same with adult learning. We all have things that we know that we can actually we're actually set up to where we can actually be our best teacher, right? And so it's just a matter of figuring out how to take on that role. We also have thoughts and attitudes about who we are and what we're capable of. We're not usually the best judge of these things. We actually tend to be overly critical and assume that we know less than we do. It's so important to develop hacks around these thoughts so that we can learn in a way that motivates and inspires us. This isn't about what math skills you have yet. It's looking at how you think about your role as a learner and how that has worked or not worked for you in the past. Okay, so finding out what types of things feel easy for you to learn. What types of things do you know a lot about? How do we learn from others, or what type of people do we feel like we're able to learn from? Who do we share our own experiences and knowledge with? How do we do it? Things like that, because those are all finding our place as a learner and teacher, which really it's the same thing. Okay, we all have the ability to direct our own learning, and we are our own best teacher. I'm so excited that we are on this journey together. I know that I will learn so much with you all. Yes, so I am a learner as well. Every time I experience this content that we're learning about, I learn it in a different way because I'm learning it with different people. If I have to explain something different or someone shows me something that I didn't know about, I'm learning it deeper. And so there's that opportunity every time uh, I'm teaching a class. So there's only going to be like 6 little things here that we have to look at. And so this first one says, when thinking back about your school learning experience, which of the following statements sounds familiar to you? And so any of these things that you could imagine yourself saying, you're going to click and say it. It was amazing, the best time of my life. Okay, no. I block it out and try not to think about it. Definitely some parts, but not where, yeah, I don't really do that too much. Hated it, I wouldn't say that. Who cares? It's in the past. It was okay for the most part. That's probably where I would have been. Not a good student. I've never been. Life was really stressful. I couldn't concentrate on school. I should have tried harder. I can identify that. I could have done better than I did. I had some success, but it wasn't consistent. So for me, that's what I would fill out. And I'd hit continue. On here, it says, what are some words that come to mind when you think about things that you're good at or know a lot about? things that you can easily share with other people, either in person or virtually. Okay. And so what it has in there, it's just kind of a placeholder, and that would be like the start of what I would have filled in. So I obviously teach math and science, so I know a fair amount about that. Pro wrestling, graphic design, I do watercolor painting, I do play music, all kinds of things that I feel like I could share about. So anything like that, things that you feel like you could um, uh, share, either your knowledge about it or something you created with it. And that could be face to face, it could be something that you wrote, or something that's, maybe you post videos online, anything like that. So you're just going to fill something in there. Like I said, I need to put something in there. Um, are there any specific people in any part of life or things that have been, or things, so it doesn't have to be a person, it could be uh, something from nature, or it could be anything that you've been able to, that's been able to share with you in a way that you walk forward with that knowledge. So where you were able to get like some deep knowledge that you're never going to forget from, and that could be an experience. It doesn't have to be with another person. It doesn't have to be like, it could be, an experience you had with yourself of reflecting on something, where something came out and oh my God, I never thought about that. It could be experience in nature. It could be experience with a person. An example I'd give for where I learned something that from a tree in my front yard. I think I mentioned something that. So I've got some spruce trees in the front yard, and I had this project I wanted to do. And there's this type of craft that they do in Mexico that my wife had showed me, like a video of it, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool, I want to try that. And it uses the same sort of glass beads as we do here for beading, but they're applied to the surface of things. You cover a surface with like a sticky wax, and then you put the beads on, you make all these designs. And I go, oh, that's cool. And that was right at the start of the pandemic, and so I'll try this. And so you need this special wax, and it's beeswax mixed with like tree resin. And so I figured, well, I got a spruce tree out there, I'll go get some resin. And I go out and I go, well, where would the resin be? Well, where it gets cut in the bark, that's where it comes out. And so I'm looking for cuts. I'm hardly finding any resin there. I'm going all the way around the tree, and there's two big giant trees, and I hardly had any. And I'm going, what's going on here? Like, there should be way more than that. And then just by like looking around, I happened to look down, and like everywhere below where the cuts are, if there was something sticking out, it's where it had dripped down and got caught on something, and that's where the big clumps of it are. And I'd never thought about that when I was looking for it, but having that experience and seeing that, go, okay, well, now I know where to look, and I'm never going to forget how to do that. And it actually was a really cool um, thing. When I thought about it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's like when you're looking somewhere for an answer, you're looking for somewhere for information, and the real information is somewhere just around it, and you're so focused in the place where you're expecting it that you miss it. So I'd walked all the way around the tree, and it was like, in some cases it was probably um, like less than a foot away from where I was looking, but I just wasn't focused on that part. So that was something I learned from nature, right? And that type of thing is something that you carry forward. I'm just gonna look here for a sec here. Everyone's still with me? Is that making sense so far? All right. So I would type something in there. Are there any specific people or methods that you use to share your knowledge? I really wrote a really terrible sentence there. So any specific people that you share knowledge with, or methods or techniques that you use to share knowledge? That's what we're looking for. And so if you have kids, definitely you share knowledge somehow with your kids, with a spouse or a partner or coworkers, or it might be, um, it could be anyone. It could be people you don't even know. By um, like say you um, create art or music and you post it online, and other people are seeing that, and it's inspiring them to do things. That's sharing your knowledge, sharing your experience with people. Okay, so those are all methods that you can use to um, share with others. um, and so for me, I had put students, my kids, my wife, coworkers. And I do it sometimes creating videos or songs or art, using social media, any way that you can express something to someone else um, is the potential for, well, you're sharing your experience, sharing your knowledge with people. Okay. You're being real, becoming more real in other people's um, lives. Okay. And so I just got to put something in there. Name a few life experiences that provide you with shareable knowledge. So no details needed yet, just a few words. So things that you've done in your life where you have knowledge that you can share. So things that you experienced, things that you learned along the way, or if in a certain subject, it could be like I played lots of sports. I've been teacher in a lot of different situations. I've been a parent. I've survived trauma. I've done home renovations. I've been, um, I've had lots of weird, bizarre life experiences, or really unique experiences. I've spent like a month in Kenya, and a week of that I was in like a remote place, which was like the craziest Wild West of the world, and saw things and learned things that not too many people get to see. There's stuff I can share from that. um, all kinds of things. So what things from your experiences are shareable, or things that even that you can connect new stuff to for your learning. Okay. um, this is the last one, I think. When you think about this course, how do you feel about things? Select all that apply. So if I'm stressed out, I'm confident. I feel pretty confident. I'm scared, not really. Who cares? Nah. I'm excited, yeah. I'm nervous. Uh, I could have put like 10 synonyms. I'm apprehensive. I'm agitated. I don't know, whatever. Just of those ones, because I want to know if you are stressed out about it, you're nervous about it. That's something we want to get around, uh, get past that, because that affects your ability to learn. So we've successfully answered all the questions. Here, I have to make sure I click submit. And you've completed this activity. We'll use this later in making our action plan. I really appreciate the work you're doing to share this with me. And so whether you did this already or not, then it doesn't take very long to go through and do that. Okay. Any questions on that? All good. No one's sleeping? Yeah, doesn't look like it. Okay, so from here, there's a few different places that we can go to get to the next thing. We can go back to the dashboard, which is our first page, but we don't need to. This is where we are right now. This is the next activity. This is the third activity over here. So we can go to the next one there, or actually the next one is right here as well. The next thing will always be over here. So this is another where are we coming from, and this is going to be a I'm just going to move this up here. This is going to be I'm just going to change the way this, whatever. Okay, so this is a forum. And so forums are kind of like a type of social media, where it's a way to communicate stuff. But they can get really hard to follow and get really disorganized if you start going down, if you say you reply to something and then you go down that tree, you kind of get blocked off from the main discussion and thing. It's hard to find your bearings. So there's a few things we want to take into account when we're deciding where to post. And so this is just a single topic forum. So this is specifically just for this activity. This won't be an ongoing forum, but we will have other forums where we'll use to share information about different things we're working on in class. And so it says here, one way that we can feel more connected and supported in our path is to share a little bit about ourselves. You'll see that many others in the class have similar interests and concerns. I realize that social media can be get pretty stressful, but any forum that we have in this course is moderated. You can rest assured that typical Facebook negativity will have no place here. Positivity only. Okay, like I hardly use Facebook at all, and like the majority of my friends on Facebook are people that I either work with or taught, and so like my what's it called? This is where all the posts show up. I get everything is pretty centered on this area here, standoff and area. And so I see all the, there's a lot of stuff that comes up where people can be pretty nasty to each other, and people that I know that I've never seen that sort of stuff from, that stuff will come out in those things where I'm like, ooh, I don't know about that. None of that here. This is all positivity and all sharing, looking for ways that we can help other people or share what we've learned, because when we share what we learn, we understand it deeper. And that's that last step of learning where it starts to become embodied and we carry it forward. We have to be able to share it, and this is an opportunity to share. And so in the assignment, we're going to copy these. It says questions, but they're not really questions, they're more statements, and we're going to paste them into a new forum post. So you've probably seen things like this on Facebook where there's like a list of questions, or how many of these things have you done and what's your score on it or whatever. It's kind of like that. And then we're going to post it, fill in our answers on it, and then we are going to, once there's some more posts, we're going to reply to some other posts. Okay, so at first, when there's hardly anything on there, it's kind of hard to do. So you'll probably have to post and then come back and see. So what you're going to do is you're going to select all these statements, and there's two different ways that you can copy it. There's some keyboard shortcuts that work in any program. So copy is Control-C. I'd press that. So hold down the control button, press the letter C, and it will copy it. Or we can right click and go copy. And those are now on the clipboard. I've done this already. Oh, it looks like someone else, a few other people have. Oh, awesome. So when we're doing this, don't reply your answer to someone else's post, because that's going to bury it in their post. We want to reply it to the original post. Okay, so remember that when you're posting a comment on a forum, post it, like if you're wanting it to be something that shares with everyone, it has to be a reply to the original post. If you reply to someone's, so say you replied to my post, my earlier post, or replied to Karis's post, it's going to be buried under there, and other people won't necessarily see it. Okay, so I'm going to go reply, and then when I scroll down, I'm going to go into here where I write my reply, and I can either go Control V, or I can right click and go paste. And so when it does that, this text box is pretty small, that if you don't go all the way back up, you might not realize that you have more information. Okay, so you're going to fill that out. And when I did, this is what I ended up filling out. So my name, Mark Huggins, my Blackfoot name, Mamyachikimina, which is Magpie Man. And if you do have a Blackfoot name, I'd love to see it. And even if you don't know how to spell it however you want, or give the English name, whatever. What I prefer to be called, Mark, or I love it when like all the elders and that, they call me Mamyachikimina, and I know that's my name, right? So it's always cool when I hear it. It feels good to hear it. Either one. If I could be any animal, I would be, well, I guess a magpie, obviously. If I'm not working on schoolwork, I'm probably doing music, art, watching wrestling, hanging out with my wife and kids, things like that. I grew up in lots of small towns in Saskatchewan and Alberta. Then I lived in Winnipeg for a few years in grade like 7 and 8. And then I moved to Lethbridge in grade 9, and I've been here since. So I've been here, I guess, like 30, Southern Alberta for 30 years. One thing that I know a lot about is a little about a lot of things. So this random trivia. When I was a little kid, my parents bought like the World Book Encyclopedia set. And like I'm talking like when I was like probably like grade 2 or 3, and I started reading them, and I read them like cover to cover, every one of them. And I kept reading through them. Like that's what I'd do before I went to bed until I was like pretty much an adult. Like that was like, it was almost like meditation or whatever. And so I have all this superficial knowledge about a lot of weird things that I don't necessarily remember how I learned it. But it's kind of trapped in time. So it's like, because that was like probably 1983 or 84 when it was published. And so so all my, like I know all the world capitals and geography and all that stuff, but it's all like pre breakup of the Soviet Union and all that stuff. So I know all that stuff. And so if I'm watching Jeopardy, like I'll just like spit stuff out and not know how I know it. But it's just kind of a weird thing. Know a lot about pro wrestling, sports, music, obviously science and math and that sort of thing. Describing my computer abilities in one word. I said I am wizard-like, maybe I could say a warlock of some sort. I'm not sure what the differentiation is, or what makes someone a warlock rather than a wizard, or a male witch, or whatever it is. I haven't done the research on that. So the idea being that I've always been really good at figuring out how to do things and finding information about how to do things, and especially with technology. When I think about this course, I describe my feelings as excited. At least one person that has had a big impact on my life, my parents, my wife, my kids, my elders. You'll notice that a lot of stuff on here is similar to what we did in the first activity, but this is a sharing part of it. So that was identifying things, and this is us sharing it. I'm taking this course so that I can, for me, is become a better teacher. So learning more ways to share the knowledge, learning it deeper. My favorite type of music is pretty much anything, and it kind of cycles around. I used to always say like anything but country, but then as kind of a joke, I my wife is from Mexico, and she totally fluent in English, but I wanted to learn Spanish because I like to talk to her mom and stuff. And I decided, okay, I'm going to write some songs in Spanish. And so I'll learn Spanish that way, or I'll take like an English song and translate it into Spanish and learn it that way. And it actually really worked. And for some reason, I decided I was going to do it. Well, first ones I was doing in like kind of reggaeton style. So like some good like J Balvin type stuff. And then I got into doing it into like country style. And so I actually started having some appreciation for it. So right now, I actually never used to be interested in classical music at all. Like I didn't get it. And I've been kind of learning about that. I never used to get like understand really like say like powwow drumming and singing. Like it never made sense to me. But like last year, I got wrangled into being part of the drum group, and I'd never really been a singer much before. I didn't think I could, but then I kind of got forced into it. Found out I can actually sing, and I'm a pretty drum, and I've actually got to perform and stuff with that. So um, I try to keep an open mind now. I live in Lethbridge, and most importantly, my favorite professional wrestler, and this is a tough one because there's so many, but boils down to probably Chris Jericho, I think would be my favorite. Okay, so that was me going through typing all that. Oops. And then when I filled it all in, I'm going to hit submit, and it will go there. It'll post there. Okay. I cancel that because I don't want to submit it again. Okay. The last part of that assignment is you need to check out your classmates' posts. So you may have to come back later, although it looks like there's quite a few on there. Comment briefly on it, or I put like, but I don't think you can. You have to comment. And it could be a thumbs up, whatever. But it's nice if it's something specific about something they shared, because it helps people to feel heard and connected, and you might be able to say, oh yeah, I like that too, or no, Conor McGregor's a bum and Ronda Rousey sucks, or no, I wouldn't say that. He doesn't mess with Karis. Okay, so the way you do that is you'll click on reply, and you'd write something, and I say, oh, Karis wants to become a nurse. Oh, that's cool. You want to be a nurse. My mom is a nurse. Connection, right? Do that 5 times. If you're feeling really like, you could go and post on everybody's. It's a thing that I think would be it's a nice activity to go through and read and get to know, and when if you can connect something to it, great. And it's going to make us feel a little bit more connected, I think. Okay, and so you'll do that for at least 5. That's it for that activity. If someone posts something to you, if you want to reply something back, feel free. It can go on. Okay, so that's this one. The last activity is this building a learning action plan, barriers to learning. And if I click on that, this comes up. And so it's kind of like the first one we did. And so this isn't about like, unpacking a bunch of trauma and feeling like overwhelmed and all that. It's more about like just identifying things right now that could be potential issues. So you'll notice there's not anything super specific there. There's nothing that's asking you to share anything, details of anything. What we're doing right now is identifying kind of some areas where there might be issues. For things that are immediate barriers, like someone not having a computer, those ones are going to be very specific and be there right away because we want to address that right away. But say it's like, well, I've experienced this trauma, I'm not we're not looking to unpack that right now, but we're looking to at least start acknowledge it's there and have it in our mind that we're going to at least be looking at some ways that we can minimize the effects of it, and that maybe we can connect to some resources that can help us. Um, and so that's the whole idea. It says all of us have things that get in the way of our learning. It's not always possible to eliminate every barrier, but when we're aware of them, we can take actions that will minimize their effects on our lives. This activity will help us identify some of the common barriers to learning that people face. We are only identifying general barriers at this stage, and whether we or someone close to us has experienced it. So whether we've been a part of it, it doesn't have to be something that happened to us, but something that, if there's something that we were a part of finding a solution for, finding someone getting connected to the resources that they needed, we want to share that information because there's other people that are facing a similar thing, and if we know um, how they can get help, that's what we want to be sharing. We also want to identify and share any resources that we know about. Remember that your answers are confidential. Thank you for participating. So anything that you share about, like, oh, I've used this resource, or this, I had a problem with housing and this is who I talked to, anything that's like revealing who you are would be removed from anything that was shared. It would be more like, um, here's a list of we're going to start compiling a list of resources and suggestions, but it won't have anything identifying characteristics on there. And so this first part is about, like our kind of basic necessities. And so things like housing, food, transportation. And like I said in the previous class, these barriers to learning, and they're really just barriers to any sort of happy, healthy existence, right? They're things that require too much of your attention, and so it makes it so you can't actually be present and connected where you're at. It's, you got this stuff in the background that takes too much attention. It's unbalanced. And like I said before, pretty much everything on this list from that first page that we had as barriers to learning, or barriers to a healthy, happy life, and barriers to connection and balance, they're all things that on some level I've dealt with myself or someone I know has. Okay, so these aren't, I'm not coming and going, well, this is what you should do because I can figure everything out for you. Like I've gone through these things. Okay, so you might not assume it, and most people don't, but I've um, had things that I've had to go through, and that I have been able to deal with for the most part on a good day. Um, so which of these do you have consistent access to? So these would be, you're going to check them if you feel like these are being met. And it's going to be relative to what your expectations are. So your idea of what adequate housing is might not be the same as someone else's. That doesn't matter. It's like, to you, it does, where you're living and your living arrangements, does it work for you? Is it a distraction, or is it safe, uncrowded, sufficiently, you're not living in a shed with no heating or something like that. You'll check it off. Okay, adequate food, and it's not necessarily having a perfect diet or anything. It's just like, is there food there when you need it? Is it, do you have a variety? Is it nutritious and fresh, or is it like the only food I have is, I get at the gas station or something. Like I'm living off meat pies and that's it, and beef jerky and hot rods and various other dried salty meats. Okay, you might be happy with that, but it's probably not adequate. So I've got adequate food. Some would say that I get probably more than adequate food based on my physique, but I'm working on it. Okay. Adequate transportation. This is all relative as well, because as long as you can get to where you need to get when you need to get there, you have adequate transportation. It doesn't mean you have to have a car or but like say you needed to be on campus all the time, but you didn't have a way to get here, we would need to figure out transportation. So I've got that. I added this one in because if you didn't select any of these three, you would need to select the bottom one, otherwise it wouldn't let you go forward. For any of these barriers related to housing, food, and transportation, please share any resources that you or someone you know have used to minimize these barriers. So if you've had issues with housing, you know, if you were couch surfing and you weren't sure where you're going to live, you know, how did you solve that issue? Okay. You know, was it reconnecting to your family? Was it someone at housing department that helped you out, or whatever it was? Same with food, same with transportation. You know, if you used food bank, or if you've you know, maybe you found an app that helped you plan out meal planning, that helped you to be able to get more out of less money on food and kept things healthy in that. And so anything like that that you can share is great. And that could be something that you or someone you know use. So we're just trying to get as many resources as possible. Here, so this is technology stuff. So we're trying to see, we want to see what you have access to. And that ideally it's something like consistent access to would be when you need it, you have it. So like if you're sharing one laptop with like 4 children and they're all doing homeschooling and that, like I wouldn't say that's consistent access to it, because what we're doing here is we want to identify if there's a need, and if there is a need, we're going to find out how we can get that solved. So I've got home internet, I've got a tablet, I've got a smartphone, I've got mobile data. So we need to have at least some sort of device and some sort of internet access to be able to be successful in this course. So and not just that, but like I know there's still people who don't have a phone line, or don't have a or they have a smartphone, but they don't, you know, sometimes they have minutes, sometimes they don't. And like for myself, like I don't actually have a phone plan, I've got a data plan, and there's an app that gives you like a free phone number and you can use it for texting and calling, and it literally costs nothing. And so like my phone and my mobile internet, like it costs me like $15 a month to have a phone and data, like a smartphone. But a lot of people don't know that that's possible. And so if you've, and the cool thing with that is if you've had, like say you've lost a phone number because, and I've had this happen before, I didn't pay the bills and it got cut off, and then now you have to get a new phone number and like no one knows your number and stuff. With this one, you get a phone number and it's yours, and you can go from device to device and just never worry about it. And so that's something, and I helped a few people set up with that last time. And you don't even have to have a data plan. You can use it on Wi-Fi, and anytime you're at Wi-Fi, you've got a phone for texting and for calling, which is probably more, it's probably less of a hassle than, you know, buying minutes and things like that. You don't actually have to, it would actually cost you $0 a month to have a phone line, and that you'd just only be able to use it where you have Wi-Fi. But that's what I do. So it basically costs nothing to have a phone line, but most people don't know about that. So that's kind of a tangent, but that's what I mean about like solutions that worked for me that um, uh, that might help someone else out. Um, let's see. And I go on here. So that's where I would fill that in. As far as like computers and laptops, like I know there's programs that where you can get free computers for kids. I know under Jordan's principle, there's a way that you can do that where you get it like right away. Um, that doesn't cover if you're 18, but for say you're sharing a computer with your kids, you can get computers for your kids and then you have your computer for yourself. Or if that doesn't work, they're guaranteed there's some way that we can find where we can solve that problem. Same with home internet, mobile data, all that stuff. We can find solutions to that. This here is about relationship responsibilities. Okay, so these aren't like, I think I wrote them down as barriers to learning, but really that's kind of frames it in a negative way. These are your responsibilities that you have that you're trying to balance with your learning. And so it's important for me to know and for others to know what you're dealing with there. And then we can share ideas on how to do this. So um, having a partner or spouse, there's always responsibilities that go with that. Um, Children, I have it kind of broken up into different age groups because there's different if you have a 16-year-old compared to like a 1-year-old, that's a different situation, right? And so just select everything that applies. If you have any children doing homeschool, that's going to be a fun to try and carve out some space for yourself to do work when you're trying to keep them on top of things, right? Caregiver for an adult, so that could be a parent, grandparent, sibling, anyone that needs, like anyone who's not fully independent that requires you for care of any amount is going to be extra responsibility that you have to balance. Or I don't have any of these relationship responsibilities. You're a lone wolf, and you're free to learn at your own leisure. Okay, so we're selecting those, and then I guess I got to put. So for me, spouse, I've got kids there. No one's doing homeschool. And in balancing relationship responsibilities and learning, please share any resources or strategies that you or some of you know have used. So, whether it's ways that you keep things balanced or organized, or resources that you've used to, like, if you can send the kids to grandma's or whatever, someone else can take care of them while you're working on the schoolwork or things like that, or how you can divide up your day or things like that is what we want to share. Okay, and then you get to the end and you submit and you've completed the questionnaire. Thank you for participating. We will work together to minimize any learning barrier that we face. And you'll notice over here there's nowhere to jump to, and so you either would go back and do something you didn't finish, but it doesn't make sense to do it out of order. You would know that you don't have anything further that's required right now. Okay. If I want to go back to my home page, I think I can click on the course name here. The course name here, I believe, takes me back there. And there's a thing I'm going to activate, which will put a little checkbox beside these things that when you're done them, you can check them off. And then that'll just help you see what you have left to do. But yeah, that is basically all there is to do on those activities. If you've already done them, or then that's all you really have to do before the next class. And if you haven't done them, like how long did that take me to go through? Like probably if you're doing it yourself, it'd probably be like 45 minutes or half an hour, right? So oh, it looks like there's a question here. It says, is there a textbook to the class or is it all posted? So yeah, I won't be giving out a textbook. Anything that you need access to will either be posted on Moodle as like a PDF, or it'll be like linked to, if it'll be in videos, or it'll be, because really what we want to be doing is we want to be modeling how we learn in, how we're going to be learning in life and in any other situation, is where we have to look for and find the resources. And a textbook, it's like a snapshot in time. The textbook that we had used is like 15 years old. It's not a very good resource, right? And we can find all this stuff. If we know what we're looking for, we can find it really easily, and I'll be linking to all that stuff. So yeah, no textbook for any of my courses. And I'm actually in the book room right now, and I'm looking at all these books that, there's a ton of math and science books that I got to figure out what to do with, because I'm not going to be using them. So. And they keep, I don't know, someone ordered me another set of like workbooks for math, and I said I didn't need them, and so I'm going to try and send those back, because that's kind of a waste. No, we got some extra learners here today. Awesome. And so any other questions? Like, I kind of went on and on and on and on and on, but I would say